India has been ranked 46th among 132 economies. It means India is improving its global ranking regarding the ecosystem for innovation in India. In the series of Education for Life, today's session is on innovation from startup to scaling up. For today's session, we are having three panelists with us. Dr. Mohit Gambhir. Dr. Gambhir, are you there?
Yeah, I just joined, but I'm in a deep, messy state.
Yeah, we are really grateful to you. Despite of your surgery, you are able to manage some time to be with us and with our audiences. Really, we are grateful to you. Dr. Gambhir is a Director Innovation at Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell. He's a PhD in Computer Engineering and a LLB. It's a rarest combination. He is known for his tremendous contribution in streamlining and is strengthening the innovation ecosystem in the education sector in India. Dr. Gambhir has been, and not only an instrumental, but he's the man behind Smart India Hackathon, Toy Hackathon, and other multiple international initiatives by Government of India, like Singapore India Hackathon, Asian India Hackathon, India UNESCO Hackathon. He's a seasoned entrepreneur, investor, advisor, and a patent expert. He has many patents to his name as well. He is a recipient of Harvard University Global Systems Award for his immense contribution in strengthening the global innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem. Dr. Gambhir has been a speaker at World Book of Records event. In his latest venture, Verispire, the company is engaged in creating valuable business assets, strategizing and consulting to develop innovative practices along with safeguarding their IP rights. It gives us an immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Gambhir.
Thank you, Puneet, and thank you, audience. It's again a pleasure. After, I believe, a break of 10 days, I got a courage to come on live. Thanks to the pursuance of Puneet ji and other people. Thank you.
Thank you. The next panelist is Dr. Srividya Raghavan. Dr. Srividya is a professor of entrepreneurship and related areas at Indian Institute of Management, Bodh, Gaya. She has a background in management as well psychology. She is chairperson of E-Cell Committee, IIM Bodh Gaya. She is director of IIM Bodh Gaya's Incubation Center, Inspire. She has several publications and award-winning cases in Ivy Publication and Case Center. We welcome Dr. Srividya.
Thank you, Mr. Puneet. Thanks for this to my wonderful co-panelists as well. Glad to be here.
I'm sure your special expertise related to business, family business activities. That will be a special insight.
Yes, I have spent some time in that area, yes.
And another panelist is Mr. Aditya Vyas. Though he's young, but he has contributed a lot, especially when it comes to rural entrepreneurship in Rajasthan. He's serving as Assistant Vice President at CIIE.co, the business incubation of IIM Ahmedabad. He leads the Indore Smart Seed Incubation Center, a joint initiative of Indore Smart City Development Limited and CIIE.co, offering mentorship, business connects, and funding to affect and orbit change for the startups. He has prior experience of starting, building, and profitability running a successful technology design and development firm working in domains like embedded hardware, IoT, web portals, and mobile apps for various prestigious companies. He's an engineering graduate in electronics engineering and master's in consultancy management from BITS Planning. Welcome, Mr. Aditya Vyas.
Thank you so much, Puneet ji, and thank you everyone for having me here. Pleasure to be in company of such a team guest.
So now, coming to, before we start this session, let me mention this, that this event is in partnership with IIM Bodh Gaya's E-Cell, and Professor Srividya is the instrumental for this particular execution. Thank you, Professor Srividya.
Thank you.
Now coming to Mr. Mohit Gambhir. We have heard a lot about innovation and entrepreneurship activities in previous 4-5 years. Of course, entrepreneurship activities has been there in the blood of Indian mindset. We were quite independent before British era. Our GDP was quite high, but somewhere we lost our own competency, and because of might be the education system or the societal needs that was created at that time. So our mindset became job oriented, 10 to 5 activity. So your take on innovation and entrepreneurship for today and tomorrow, Dr. Gambhir.
Thank you so much, Puneet. See, again, it's being said and discussed on many forums about what has been done in education system, what is there today, what is going to come in future, nobody knows. But entrepreneurship or per se entrepreneurship, they were there since ages, they are, and they are going to stay. Only thing is the kind of buzzword, the kind of overall reach that has been created today, which is helping things moving out in a manner that they are being done. And I recall mid-90s, I believe, when I started my first company. I was graduating those days, and I remember I talked to one of my professor. I need to do this and that and that. We never got a kind of kickback or kind of insight that we were looking for, or a kind of mentoring we were looking for that time. There were issues, yes, internet, it was not there. We were like no internet era graduates, and a lot of things we need to talk about to people. We used to gather a lot of social things from here and there. So challenges, as per every year, every generation, they have their own. Yes, the opportunities today that has been provided with various departments, it's phenomenal. The kind of opportunities we have, it's phenomenal. Again, I see the mindset of the student. I always say again, don't be rat in the rat race. Earlier, I used to say for students who are just looking for the jobs. Now I again say for those people who are just trying to start up for the sake of doing startup, right? It is nothing like if you are, and we guys are so paranoid that if our neighbor is doing something and earning X, why can't I do it and I earn X, or supplemented with X plus X dash? We need to move out of this. We need to focus on something which we are good at. If I am good at in something, I should focus on that. Let's make our career by choices. Let's be through entrepreneur at heart, and then try to solve the other issues and be the supporter in the economy. That has to be the way forward. And once that is being done, then I can certainly see India can follow the other footprints of the big startup ecosystem that exists out there in the world, and which I will not name the countries, but people, the audience, they are aware of, and like moonshot companies and garage companies and whatnot. But we need to come up with that kind of open mindset. We need to come up with that kind of diligence, with that kind of ethics, with that kind of perseverance, with that kind of patience, that it has nothing to do with 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or 9:30 to 5. That is, it's okay. We are working for somebody. But when we start working for ourselves and strengthening our country's economy, the ecosystem overall, even a service class fellow becomes an entrepreneur. So that is my overall take. It's all about mindset. And I tell everybody whom I talk to, just it's all about mindset. Change your mindset, come out of it, come out of your shell. Be a true entrepreneur wherever you are. Only difference is if you are in a company, you are an intrapreneur. If you are working for yourself, you are an entrepreneur. Never let your ideas or thoughts get killed. Try to push them up, try to take them forward, and make this world a glorious world. So that's my.
Thank you, Dr. Gambhir, for important interpretation. It's a mindset. No matter whether you are working for yourself or you're working for somebody else. So this is first of all a state of mind. And it is always better to start than doing it never. Might be after acquiring certain years of experience or skill set in a particular domain, and rather than continuing with a job, you can still start. there are many success stories. People even at the age of 60, they started and they are now big chains when it comes to especially food systems and food supply chain systems. Coming to Dr. Srividya, since you are teaching entrepreneurship and providing trainings as well, so automatically the first question comes in mind that, every world war has created a change in economy. Might be a specific country was based, the economy of a country was based on agriculture or manufacturing, or now recently, let's say IT. So in what way the progress of economy has occurred after every industrial revolution, especially first or second industrial revolution?
Yeah, thank you for that question.
Especially in context of India.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a favorite of mine because it kind of helps me as well as, to help my students understand the trajectory of how perhaps it's very important for us to think of entrepreneurship as something that is embedded into the economy of each country and as well as the entire world. So I usually start out with a world perspective, that's a worldwide perspective, and to really think about how perhaps innovation and entrepreneurship has contributed to the growth of the world as a whole. It's interesting to look at the history of it. So I think one thing that I also teach is business history. And that is an eye-opener in terms of understanding how entrepreneurship and innovation has changed the face of the world and how we live today. To start with, let's say before 1700s, about 1,000 years and much more than before the 1700s, because before 1600s, there was hardly a lot of history in the rest of the world. Of course, not talking about our country, I'm talking about in a global perspective. We don't know a whole lot about what happened perhaps before the 1500s or the 1400s, but at least 1,000 years before the 1700s, you find that the economic development across the world, the GDP of the world as a whole, was not growing at more than 0.11%. Post 1760, which was the first industrial revolution, going up to the mid 1800s, you find that there was a rapid development. Most of the developed nations as we see them today grew, in fact, factors of about 10, 12, 15, 25, and so on, especially Japan, Germany, America, and UK. UK was where the first industrial revolution happened. And if we know our history, we know that perhaps India and the entire colonization piece that happened in the 1700s and 1800s are probably responsible for the beginning of the first industrial revolution, because it was the cotton that went from India and America to the United Kingdom that started the first flush of the industrial revolution, which was, the beginning of the steam engine, the mills, and so on and so forth. And that was anchored on innovation and entrepreneurship only. And I think that is when the world actually started looking at development at a really, really rapid pace. And the second industrial revolution, of course, we know the story of the Ford and the assembly line and so on and so forth, which actually occurred in America, which we talk of as a technological revolution. And the third one was, of course, the IT revolution, starting with the invention of the internet. But before we get there, from the Indian perspective, I think, unfortunately, despite the fact that India was such a strong global economic power, till we got colonized, we completely missed out the first two waves of the Industrial Revolution, both the first wave as well as the second wave, where the first wave was actually captured by United Kingdom and the second wave was captured by United States, and both of which are now massive capitalist economies today. And somehow we managed to kind of catch up with the third Industrial Revolution, thanks to all the efforts that we made post our independence, especially in the education sector, with a very, very huge group of students who were able to speak English and also computer science literate. And I think that very rapidly has started changing where India is today. Of course, the third Industrial Revolution is where we were still learning how to be the back office of the world. But I think the fourth Industrial Revolution is where we really need to step in and do something about being, a leader of the world from an economic perspective.
So now I'm reiterating my concluding question related to this particular question. When it comes to India, especially when IT is moving like anything, And we have contributed a lot by providing manpower, IT manpower to USA. In what way Indian innovation system or Indian innovations can push Indian economy rather than supporting to US companies, developing your own companies?
No, I hear you. I think your concern comes from the point of view that we have, as we call ourselves the back office of the world, we have just been providing manpower to basically do or work with the innovations that have been made in the rest of the world. And perhaps that is where we feel that we need to really push forth our ability to innovate and bring new things into the world. But the fact of the story is this: you need to have a lot of capital to be able to innovate as well. Until we have that capital, it becomes a little bit difficult for us to think completely out of the box, because we're still thinking in terms of survival. And it is a known fact about 25 to 30 years ago. And since then, I don't think there's any research that has kind of talked about why that's not true, is when you put money in the hands of enterprising folks, entrepreneurship and innovation is bound to happen. So the first thing that they need is the resources, which I think in the last decade or so, I think thanks to the government and the initiative of the government, a lot of focus on entrepreneurship and innovation has been made. And I am thinking that the fourth and the fifth revolution should ideally belong to India. And I think we will talk about, I think we would have some discussion on how we can nurture that, create ecosystems to make that happen.
We'll come to that point also.
Yeah, so
can,
I think
the attributes be developed by training, or one needs to from the legacy or parental side. So coming to Dr. Gambhir, Dr. Srividya has well iterated about the need of networking of resources, right? Until there is a networking of resources, it will be difficult to develop any ecosystem or develop a startup. So, lot many innovations are happening here and there, might be in the northern part or southern part or the eastern part, but they're not talking to each other, or there is no platform as such to talk to each other. Might be same problem is conceived in a different way, different solution is being generated, or a connecting problem is there, somebody else is attempting there. So all such like-minded people need to come together to go in uniformly in one particular direction. So in what way we can integrate these innovations?
Okay. Thank you, Puneet, and putting in my thought, I'm working on this since it's been 2.5 years now. And there is a platform or a project named as Yukti 2.0. What I did, and it's in fancy, challenges are there. As we say, when you think little bit futuristic, and we teach in entrepreneurship, like I'm sure Professor Srividya will agree with me, many times if timing has to be right, if you are ahead of time, then it is a failure. If you try to tell people that this is required, and if they don't understand the exact requirement of it, they are not able to envision that why it is required for. And now the point is, coming back, when I started this, it was way before pandemic. I planned this, but pandemic played somehow, I should not say blessing in disguise, but it played a very crucial role in a manner, because if some solution was being deployed at X location down south in the country, and if we need it in Delhi, or if it was required in some far northeast, we were lacking a mechanism that who is doing what, when, where, and how. So for academic system, we try to make it as a pilot, and it's there, almost there, and people, they are putting in their ideas. So my objective came up with, no matter how small, how big idea is. Frankly, I'm a kind of a very orthodox entrepreneurial professor. Like in a manner, for me, TRL 1 to 10, yes, they are theory, they are books, they are going to be in the lab to market what kind of scenario, what not. But when it comes to practical, thought process, I generally say no idea. We should not let any idea die. We should actually provide the kind of handholding or mentoring. Ultimately, we should end up investing in an individual. And the point is, Yukti 2.0 somehow does that if someone is doing something, we are acting as an aggregator. And if in a particular space, we have all indexing, like health in AI in health, in AI, then further taxonomy breaks down that what people are doing, then it goes for hardware as well, it goes for a lot of number of different variations are there. And there what we are trying to do is, if some ideas they are at a very base level, we are trying to get them mentored or nurtured at their college level itself. If someone are at TRL 5, 6, 7, we are trying to get them into the right hands of proper after incubation or acceleration kind of mechanism. Then we are again into the process of tying up with some HNIs or investors as well. So again, I'm sure you will recall that in many of my talk, I say, if government end up doing everything, then what the hell we citizens are doing for, right? It's something which we have to own. It's something which we have to take onus for. And we have to show that, yes, there is something. It's nothing we are sitting idle. That's not what we are educated for. And that's what Yukti 2.0's whole essence is. Connect all the dots, connect the community, connect the citizens. Let we citizens be responsive enough to take hold of things. And that's where we are trying to aggregate. And we are getting decent success. Last year, we had close to 29,000 plus ideas that were being submitted by the academic setup in the whole country. And we then filtered them out. We are nurturing all of them, almost all of them, almost individuals I'm talking about, or the team members I'm talking about, because as I said, I strongly believe that out of a few millions, a few thousands are coming up, they're showing courage to submit some ideas, then they are low hanging fruits for us. At least those people, they're showing some kind of a courage. So tap them up, build their, motivate them. At least if they have some next line of idea or thought process, they must be brought forward. Not leaving apart other peers, we should also take them forward. So that's how something overall ecosystem is. Yukti 2.0 is again very near dear to my heart, and being supported by our earlier education minister, now ministers as well. We're taking it forward. Hope to see that in another 1 or 2 years time. I'm sure it is going to become a big thing out there.
I'm sure your initiative in the form of Yukti will be fruitful to all the innovators, and they'll join hands together to this particular platform. So usually what happens when somebody is having an idea and develops a prototype, or with the help of that prototype, he or she is able to adopt a journey of startup. Most of the people, they do not go for protecting their rights through IPR. So in your opinion, it may be a very small thing. It may sound a small thing, but it can lead to a big journey. So what is the role of IP for any startup, and or why any startup should opt to protect their rights through IP?
I must put a huge round of applause for you, Puneet, to ask me this question, because I am a pure play IP guy. I'm a pure play patents professional. This has been my bread and butter since past 18 years. And frankly, a torch bearer in the space that I always say an idea is just like a human form of baby. I compare it with that. A human life comes in the circumstances, what we say in any religion, wherever we go, what we do. On 6th day, maybe 13th day, or maybe X day, we name that particular life form, right? In a similar manner, why can't we protect our idea whatsoever it comes in, so that we can actually give that idea a life form, a shape, so that it carry forward. So I believe my message is very, very loud and clear in these two things. I am saying an idea is by far and large important and comparable to us, the life form we are living in, the way we move forward. That is the capability of those thought process. Now, protecting IP is something. Any individual, anyone who has conceived an idea, first step should be, this should be the first step, as in I'm sure again, many may agree, many may not. Write down, put it on some paper, if it has to, and people, they again think that why I should do it. And that's again a mission mode I'm driving through our innovation cell. IP dissemination awareness, and thanks to the government, filing of IP fees reduced to 80% for academia, for colleges, because in academic setup, there is no religious concept of earning revenues. It is not. We do not have tech transfer offices. We do not have proper licensing mechanism. And there are XYZ things we can talk about that. It may take again few years to generate that kind of robust or strengthen that kind of mechanism. But IP is something everyone should write on a paper, at least go and file a provisional. It only takes few bucks and then work upon for a year. Even if a company may not succeed, IP has the potential to sell. IP has the potential to get licensed off. Even if it is not, frankly telling you through this platform, if someone is, or if MNCs, they are coming in, we will end up generating some prior arts so that our indigenous stuff can be taken care of. A lot of things has to happen. If India has to become like $5 economy, we must diligently, religiously focus on getting IP thing done. If come what may, as I said, I'm on a mission. I would like to see very soon that in schools, students are filing, in colleges, students are filing. It's happening. It's happening, Puneet, and from I have even like I should not in a way portray, but my own daughter, 11 years old, she has a patent in her name. So it's like we have to start from the home. The thing, it is mandatory. Now imagine so many kind of like we are huge intellects, a huge population of intellects out there. If people coming up with their ideas, we get due protection and start licensing. Imagine the kind of revenues our economy starts getting, the kind of whole ecosystem it starts jumping in. It has to be done. And for that, even I say the students or the academias who are listening to me, we do run a program named Kalam program for IP awareness from our innovation cell. And from there, I'm on a mission to get 10,000 patents filed. People again do ask me, Mohit, you're focusing on patent filing. As I say, I again compare, when a kid is born, child comes to life, we start our initial few months in prime. Then we start dropping by, we start scrolling, then we start standing, we start taking baby steps, then we start proper walking, then we start running. How many years? I believe 2 to 3 years, frankly, we come in life. Why can't we actually give at least 2 to 3 years for getting this ecosystem established? Today, we may end up filing junk. Tomorrow, we may end up filing a little bit of quality. Third year, when we get more awareness, information is disseminated at the last mile level or the last door level, we can improve the stuff. But let's start from somewhere. Instead of just sitting and talking, we need to do it. That's the way forward.
Thank you. We'll be, if time permits and your health permits, we'll be having one more question with you. Can we?
Sure, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you got me charged up, but I am still getting drained out. And after this question, I would like to take a lead.
So before moving to Mohitji again, now first I'm moving to Aditya. So to develop any ecosystem, it starts from society first. Of course, the role of academic institution is there. So there is a need to have a cultural system or a social and cultural system to promote entrepreneurship. Otherwise, usually what happens that parents, they attempt to, they want their wards to go for a safe and secure journey. You earn this particular degree, then go for a secure job or a job in MNC or out of India. So in what way we can develop our social and cultural system to promote entrepreneurship? That is first part of the question. And then we'll come to being vocal for local. Your take on this particular question.
Thank you, Niji. I think Dr. Gambhir got all of us charged up, not only himself, but also the panelists and the people who are listening to us live. Coming to your question, Puneet, I think society has and does play a huge role in getting people to start up and getting specifically parents out of the stigma that starting up is only for those who are unable to secure a job. And also to make sure that there are certain risks which are always associated with starting up. And there are ways and means in which you can mitigate those risks and still start up. You might again end up failing, you end up falling. But if the society is there, if the society helps you, an entrepreneur is always the person who gets up after the last meeting and makes sure that he ends up the fight standing up and still fighting till the end. What I have seen in my short journey as an entrepreneur for around 9 odd years, and then 3 years with a incubation center at CIICO, is that the society is changing a lot. And what changes societies, and this is what we tried initially at startup process when we started in Jaipur, and we are trying to sort of replicate it in Indore, are success stories, right? You need something to share across good things with people, and success stories of entrepreneurs, success stories of people raising money, success stories of people giving employment, success stories of people or startups turning into unicorns is something that is helping others gauge that this is something which can take place of a 10 to 5 job. A startup is something which you can pick it up as a career and progress in it. Even for those who are now joining startup, because earlier, even when I graduated 12, 13 years ago, the primary mode or the primary way for people who were graduating was to get through into one of the MNCs that were sort of hiring in boards, right? Now people fight and actually try to get into a good upcoming startup because the benefits of learning as well as the benefits monetary are huge as compared to just a regular MNC job. You can get to learn across the board. It is not only that you're specifically doing a particular role, because in most startups, as all of you might agree, you're not just doing your role, you're doing almost everything under the sun to make sure that the startup succeeds, especially the early team members, the T0 to 250, the first 50 team members of every big startup. And their society is gaining. The newer shows which are coming up on TV, although I don't agree with the way they are conducted primarily for TRP purposes, but yes, one part of the spectrum, which is getting common man associated or getting them connected with what the startup journey looks like. What is equity? What is fundraising? What is success? How do you support these people? That sort of enthusiasm, which was sort of lacking and only being pushed from the academic institutions, was being pushed by the government, is now coming from inside the society because of these shows and all that stuff. So this is a quick point that I feel society is waking up across the world. This was done slightly, I believe, 10 years ago. Our time has come now, and I believe that, like Professor Raghavan said, that the 4th and 5th revolutions, we will be leading it.
Correct. So now coming to the second part of the question, Honorable Prime Minister has emphasized about being vocal for the local. So in what way, and you're already doing not many exercises in Rajasthan rural areas, in what way the local innovations can take India move forward and further?
From what I remember, the Vocal for Local program was launched, or initiative was launched by the PM sometime after the first lockdown, sometime in 2020. But this initiative sort of dates back to 1905 when Mahatma Gandhi launched the Swadeshi movement. The journey of both of them are similar. It is primarily to wake up the citizens, primarily to ask the citizens to use products that are being developed in-house, and also to improve upon the quality such that it is not a compromise to use products being developed or being manufactured within the country, but we are able to compete with the world on basis of our quality of products. And obviously, zero defect, zero effect is what the government is now aiming to for almost all manufacturing units across the country. Vocal for Local initiative, specifically if I look from Rajasthan's angle, has helped us a lot. Almost all of our districts have some or the other product or some or the other sector that is very famous for that particular zone. The fabrics, the printing of Jaipur, the Sanganer and the Bagru prints are famous the world over. The furnitures from Jodhpur region are famous. Pali is known for certain things, the long tail segment specifically. I'll pick up sectors such as art and craft. I'll pick up sectors such as food. I'll pick up sectors such as hospitality, fashion, and all of these are picking up because of internet coming even to a rural area. All of these are picking up because the D2C sector, the direct to customer sector, is picking up. And that is why people who are earlier manufacturing something for themselves or perhaps for a local area can now come to the national forum, can come and reach to the customer who is sitting across India, who is sitting across the world, and try to sell their wares to them. And with various supports available from the government in form of loans, in form of subsidies, in form of the open network for e-commerce that is coming up very soon, I'm sure that this will further pick up, and the startups or the entrepreneurial culture will rise and will give further fillip to vocal for local.
Thank you, Aditji. Now coming to Professor Srividya.
Yes.
Well iterated, well explained by Aditji that we need to break the ice of the typical mindset of opting a job, secure, safe and secure job. Even working in an startup company will give you more exposure than an established company, so that ultimately you can have your own setup in the form of startup. So in what way the role of parent becomes vital and the society and academic institutions to develop entrepreneurship activities?
So I'd like to bring out a few different perspectives on this topic. In the initial years, if you remember our grandparents and even maybe some parents for some of us, a government secure job was probably the most important thing, because we needed to have some revenue to even manage our day-to-day lives. So, and that is every man's need to make himself secure. So unless he's able to make himself secure, it's going to be very difficult for us to expect him to start taking risks. And I think in the last 20, 30 decades, 20, 30 years, 2, 3 decades since 1991, and when we opened up and our GDP has been galloping and we've really grown, I think all of us would agree that our lifestyles have remarkably improved, and a lot of people have improved their lifestyles just because the income in their hands have increased. And I think this is putting us in a position where our children, we are kind of probably comfortable letting our children take risks. And I think, again, that is a remarkable change that has been brought about because of the fundamental talent pool that we have in our country. And the minute you put resources in their hands, I think they can rise to the occasion, which I think we are doing a really, really good job in the last 20, 30 years. And the second perspective that I would like to bring to this is, it is not just about wanting to push people into becoming an entrepreneur, because we really don't want 100% of our population to be entrepreneurs, really. Even, I don't even know whether we can put a percentage to it and say, 20% of our population should be entrepreneurs or 30% of our population should be entrepreneurs, because then we can't make any teachers, doctors, nurses, so on and so forth. And we need all kinds of people to run this world, right? So the question is, how, because one entrepreneur can make, let's say, 30,000 jobs, and an entrepreneur can make a job just for himself. You have a really large scale difference in terms of the different types of entrepreneurs that we can make, right? So that's another thing that we should keep in mind when we say entrepreneurship is important, innovation is important. Innovation, I think, can occur at every level for all individuals, but entrepreneurship per se as a career path, does everyone have to do it? Perhaps not. I think only the guys who are good at it should do it. And again, it is exactly the same as how you nurture any other kind of talent. How do we make good engineers? How do we make good dancers? How do we make good artists? How do we make good lawyers? I think we should try and make good entrepreneurs in the same way. Find the spark in people, identify the right kind of people for the job, and see if we can train them and put the resources in their hands to make them good entrepreneurs, so they can create more livelihood, create more opportunities for innovation, and help the country really forge ahead. That would be my third perspective on this. Does it answer the question in some way?
Yeah. Yes. So, well explained. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Someone may be interested in coffee, someone tea, or someone, in chikanji. So you need to identify first of all, your domain, your interest, and many other personality attributes are needed to have a journey of, startup or entrepreneur. Jeevat ka kaam hai. That's what we come. Everyone is not a warrior. So now coming to Dr. Mohit Gambhir, the warrior for today's program, despite of his medical condition, he's there. So that's what, one of the personality attribute is needed. So you have, touched so many students through Smart India Hackathon and other hackathons as well. So some of them are able to lead the journey of startup. So what kind of attributes you have observed among those students, those who are able to lead a successful startup?
So I would just like to understand it more. You need to, you are asking me the attributes of that individual?
The attributes, the personality attributes which are needed apart from your other technical skills or business skills. There are some internal skills are needed to become an entrepreneur or successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. So why I'm giving a very, skirmish laugh as in, and we have a professor of entrepreneurship with us, and we have another person who is practicing as an entrepreneurship. It's a very wide question. Can entrepreneurship be taught? Question mark and in quotes. Right.
We'll take this question from Professor Srividya regarding
that's what I'm trying to say. That's as an introspection. But on the contrary, like you said, traits and attributes, what we believe. So they are all amalgamation of these things, Puneet, when we talk about. For me, when I look around, I always say we never came up to this word, learned from our mother's womb. That's the society, that's the word, overall scenarios around us that made us what we are. And it's about the habit of learning from our surroundings, the curiosity quotient that I perceive as innovation quotient. And another thing, like I say, perseverance, patience, ethics. These are some of the qualities which I believe are must. Many people, they do lack over the course of period. And like, as I say, even as an investor, when I look into putting in the company, or if I took an idea, again is one thing. Yes, I have to look my X% or EBITDAs and whatnot. It's all about profits. But when you are looking to carry that team along, the people who are there with you, that becomes kind of your members for your whole life journey, then these things, I believe, come along much. And I have no issues in saying it. Cutting corners should not be a kind of entrepreneurial mindset attribute. People should avoid it. Many of our students, and they believe that we can do this and immediately chop things off and move on to the life. Don't do it. It is a kind of a failure, results in failure pretty much. And not even for you, it creates a dent for overall ecosystem that harms, may give you benefit short terms, but may harm others in the ecosystem. So attributes as per se, again coming up, perseverance, patience, ethics, trustworthiness. That's something which I generally see as in the team to move forward.
So soon we are going to see Smart India Hackathon. Best wishes for you for the execution. And in case if you feel comfortable, we may continue with you. Otherwise, we'll continue with our.
No, I would like to take a leave now because started getting headache. But the thing is, I would like to wish all the very best, and my apologies. Though Aditya said that I charged up, but I generally do not want to sound so low. And anybody wants to reach me up, I am available there 24/7. Mohit Gambhir. Just Google it up. You get all the handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, what may not. And I'm generally handy. I generally respond. Thank you so much, and looking forward. And maybe would like to touch base with Professor Srividya and Aditya very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Take care. Thank you, Dr. Mohit Gambhir. Despite of his health condition, he allowed himself to be with us and share his knowledge and insight on this particular topic. Now, coming to Aditya ji, many incubators are being set up by governments, institutions, or privately owned as well. They're nurturing innovation. many industries, they don't have their own setup for research and development facilities. So they try to do a tie-up with such incubation centers. So in what way these incubation centers can play a vital role to push Indian industries, be it manufacturing or design or handicraft, whatever?
All right, thank you. It is usually the other way around, that we usually connect with people, as in incubators connecting with industries. But you have put me in a spot here. I'll try to answer my best, and perhaps Professor Raghavan would have to help me out here. From my understanding and from my experience at CIICO, what we have seen is that in most cases where an industry already exists, in spite and despite of the fact that they might have a R&D unit or labs in-house, especially the bigger ones are now reaching out to incubators such as CIICO, such as some of the other bigger names available out there in India, and trying to connect to startups, to innovators through these incubators, right? Because in most larger companies, there is a red tape or a bureaucracy that has developed across the years, and which stops radical innovation taking place into those industries. And that is where hardcore innovators, hardcore startup founders come into picture. And we at incubation centers end up becoming matchmakers, connecting people who have developed the technology, connecting people who are mastering upon something that is totally new, that is really innovative in the ecosystem, and connecting them to industries who might need it, or who have the wherewithal, the market, the economies of scale to manufacture that and to get it into the public domain. That is one way in which we have been able to help. A couple of programs that we did, I'll pick up 2 or 3 names. We are working with Cisco. We are working with Accenture. We have worked with SAP. And all of these companies are looking for startups to come up and bring some new products into the market that will also help these companies address the concerns of their customers in the coming years and days and years. So I believe this is one important place where innovation has come into picture, and where incubators are playing a prime role of connecting the supplier to the person who demands those products or services. The incubator also brings in the other perspective, wherein very often the technology developer, the innovator, does not understand the other aspects of a business. For example, the pricing mechanism, the technology transfer, the marketing, the commercialization aspects, among other things. And that is where an incubator brings in a cohesive team of experts, both in-house, external mentors, etc., and tries to delve deeper into each of these topics with the founder, with the innovator, as may be the case, and try to get that innovation off the ground and into the hands of the customers, either directly through that startup or through an industry.
So in a case, if the viewer is a student, it's a good news that your ideas are going to be utilized by the industry. Don't undermine your ideas. If you have a solution for any kind of existing problem, so people like Aditya, there are many people, those who are going to help you out, to nurture your idea, to develop it into the shape of a business.
If I may add, Puneet, one quick point, because this comes to mind, considering that we are students out there in the audience. Government of India launched the Smart City program 7 years ago. It completed 7 years yesterday. And that is an amazing forum for innovators, specifically students who are into higher education, bachelor's, undergraduates, postgraduates, and PhDs, to reach out to the specific CEOs and engineers of Smart City. Because Smart City has a grading system in which they are graded on number of innovations that they have bring to commercialization. Most people might not know it, because I'm working with Indore Smart City very deeply these days. And Indore is adjust the best smart city, I believe this year, 2021-22. They have brought in around 12 innovations for civic duties and for civic requirements into real stream, into mainstream, and got them commercialized. And that is why they ranked higher on the innovation scale as well. So if you are living near a smart city, and I believe there are 100 across India, so you should be near one, you can approach the relevant people of a smart city, or approach them through an incubator near you, or through us at CIICO.
So it's a great news. Thanks for giving this information related to smart city. And might be every 100 or 200 kilometers or so, anyone can find a smart city. So you are not far off to reach and getting your idea implemented in the form of commercial venture. So coming to Professor Srividya. So the millennial question, can entrepreneurship be imbibed through training, or do we need to be, that it needs to be in our DNA?
Yeah, could you please repeat that a little bit? I think the connection, I lost your words.
No issues. So, I mean, it's a big question, because every student, they may, there may be a psychological barrier that I am not born in Ambani's or Tata's or any other business house. So I am from a very mediocre family background. Can I still practice entrepreneurship? Usually people say that business comes in blood. So they get, subconscious training right from early days of childhood. So even if you are a grown-up child, you are in college, can you still acquire certain skill sets through training? Professor Srividya.
So again, I think the grass is always greener on the other side. Because if you really look at the first generation entrepreneurs in any large business house, they've probably started out middle class or low middle class. So that's hardly actually an argument to say that you cannot be an entrepreneur if you start out, from a middle class background and things like that. So it's, in fact, since you pointed out family business, there's a very common saying that says shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves, which means the first generation really made the money, the second generation managed to use it. By the time you get to the third generation, you've lost it all. So it really doesn't matter if you're actually born in an Ambani or a Birla family to be an entrepreneur. I think, and again, the question of whether entrepreneurship is something that's there in your blood or not, I think it is it's the same nature-nurture debate that is true of almost everything that's living, whether it's plants growing in the forest or whether it's growing in your nurtured in a garden, whether it is animals that are kept as pets in your house or whether these are animals in the wild. And so also for humans, the debate is always between whether you can nurture people or whether it is innate. I think, like they say, especially this question coming to a faculty sometimes is extremely unfair. When I was a marketing faculty, nobody asked me whether I could teach marketing to folks. When it comes to entrepreneurship, people want to know whether I can actually teach entrepreneurship to folks, right? So it's about, and I would actually compare it to something like, any kind of a skill. Like if you were to do dance, not everyone is born with an innate ability to dance. Not everyone is a dancer, but that doesn't mean I can't teach somebody to dance. Right? I mean, you can always learn the skills and you can apply it anywhere you want. You probably are not going to be the best ballet dancer in the world or any sort of a dancer, but when something demands and you're called to it, you will dance. I mean, for your, your daughter's wedding or something like that, you'd probably be able to do something. And I think it's very important that everyone understands or gets an opportunity to understand these skills, because even if you're not going to be an entrepreneur, that's not a career you're going to have, you're going to be working for an entrepreneur. And I think it helps to be able to be empathetic to an entrepreneur, because it kind of puts you in his shoes and makes you understand the challenges of the business. Because at the end of the day, all of us are either building a business or working in a business. So it is about business. So understanding the nuances of it is going to help everyone. So once you've learned it, you can always decide whether that's a career path you want to follow. And again, anything can be nurtured. And if you have the skills, you're lucky. You can learn it.
I do agree. Anyone is not knowing how to swim, but after practicing, you learn everything, be it cycling, car driving, everything. So human mind is a trainable mind, trainable, property. It's having trainable property. So through training or rigorous training by wish, will, whatever, and support system is, available these days. Gone are the days when, you have to work.
And I think that is, a very, very big thing, very, very big piece. I think in the last 10 years, if you were to look at 2017, we had 10 unicorns. 2022, we are pushing 100. So that shows the kind of a support, that kind of shows the way in which our ecosystem has developed just over the last 5-6 years to be able to support startups. And this is a really, really fantastic growth from just 10 unicorns, which were like static for about 3-4 years, all of a sudden, just post-COVID, we have about 98 of them listed as unicorns. I mean, there can't be better evidence of a good ecosystem being developed in our country.
Absolutely right. So don't have a hitch in your mind. So in the beginning, Dr. Mohit Gambhir said, it's all a state of mind. So just come out from that self-created fear or barrier and just explore, to visit, to have a visit to the nearby incubation center, and rest they will help you out. So moving to Aditya, in previous years we have seen the growth of startups like anything. It has been mushrooming around. So and the success rate is quite not that high. So obviously that there needs to be a quality control check for all entrepreneurial ventures, so that they shouldn't die, they should grow, they should flourish. So in what way this quality control check can be introduced? It can be a self-check or by the external machineries.
So very recently, Y Combinator, YC as it is called in the startup world, shared a letter with all of its startups that it is supporting, that we are approaching funding winter. And you have to make sure that you're default alive and not default dead. So basically, in the past, what has happened is, with a lot of investment money flowing in through various VCs, through various angels, etc., many startups just kept focusing on scale, and had absolutely zero focus on sustainability, financial sustainability. The money had to come to a stop at some point of time due to various factors that are beyond a startup's control, including war in the Europe, including the rising interest rates in the West, among other things, and including falling stock market in India itself. So people are slightly now more, I would not say the funding has stopped, but the funding that is coming into startups is now being done very carefully. And people are now seeing that the startups are now sustainable, at least on a unit level. So if a startup is scaling up, and this is what my thought has always been, that you should also be in a situation to survive as a business in case external funding does dry up or slow down, right? It is good to have funding to grow exponentially, but in case there is no funding available for some period of time, you should not die. So on a unit level, that each sale that you make, each product that you sell, each service that you give to a particular customer, that should be profitable. It is possible that you might not be able to give huge salary to the founder, you might not be able to give dividend, you might not be able to generate huge profits, but that is all right till you grow to a certain level. Till then, it is important to survive, and for that, unit economics, as we call it, should be positive. Every time you're able to reach out to customer, make sure that the customer acquisition cost, the amount that you pay in marketing, in sales to onboard a customer should be low, such that every revenue that you generate from each customer is positive enough to survive for the company. And this is the crux of the matter as far as startup quality is concerned. In most cases, startup would either have a product innovation, that is, they're developing something that is totally new, in which case I would give example of slightly more scientific oriented companies, or they would have a business innovation, in which case I would give example of a shop kirana, or perhaps a Byju's, in which kirana store were existing, but they changed the business model and got in something new, right? So in both of these categories, there is innovation, which is also causing a lot of positive social impact on the ground. So on that parameter, the startups are usually judged on the innovation and the impact criteria, and the funding that comes to them, the success that comes to them, the customers that come to them are usually on basis of these two criteria. If they're innovative enough, and if they are causing some positive social impact in the society. But for a startup to survive, for a startup to grow, the unit economics should be positive, and they should be on a path to break even within the first 18-24 months, depending on the kind of products that they have. Many companies, specifically in the healthcare sector, or who are developing something radically new, it is possible that their path to profitability would be much longer But for most other companies which are into business innovation, which forms, I would say, 70 to 80% of the startup that we have out there, should have profitability in a time frame of 18 to 24 months. That is my view here.
Thank you. So first check is the sustainability of your business, and then each unit or service, whatever you're extending, should be in the profit. So it may or may not be a huge profit, but it should generate some
cash
profit.
Positive. Yes.
So now coming to question session round. Many questions are there. One is from Ms. Rinku Raheja. She's from National PG College, Lucknow. The question is, we are already in the job sector, and still there comes some idea in our mind to have some startup. How can we deal with such kind of situation? The question is open for both the panelists. Somebody who is already in job, having some idea.
Okay, so if I can take the first shot at it, then maybe Aditya can also share his thoughts. So I think if your job permits, and if you have an idea in your mind, I think there have been a lot of businesses that started out when people were already in business. A great example would be Amazon. In fact, when Amazon started, he actually was working as an analyst, customer analyst, and when he saw that there was a convergence between retailing and the internet wave, is when the whole idea of Amazon came into his mind to get started. So there's nothing to stop you from getting started while you are at work, and because ideas take a little while to actually become concrete and actually get on the flow. And if you can pull it, if you're really passionate about your idea, I think you should be able to pull off both. I would never advise anyone to give up their job and not have a buffer to take care of their family and their own needs before they jump into the entrepreneurship bandwagon, because that can really burn them and completely put off any kind of an entrepreneurial interest you may have in the future as well. So that would be my 2 cents. I think if you have an idea, you should definitely give it a shot. And if you can do it with your job alongside of it, that's great. But don't do it if you're not secure and you've not kind of kept enough for yourself to be able to take that plunge.
So I think the risk-taking capabilities more for the people, those who are already in job. They need not to worry for the next day's bread and butter. So I think they can explore it more.
And usually there is a gestation period, before when an idea actually starts becoming something concrete and something that they feel they can start making money out of. And I think that can be done alongside a job if they have one.
So another question is there, why startup fail? Critical factors that a startup should focus on the success. I think Aditji, partially you have already answered, but would like to throw more light on that.
So what I answered was primarily for those startups who have already reached a certain level, but at an early stage when most of the startups fail, most of the startups do not reach maturity. So in early days, startups fail because they fail to recognize what is the problem that they are trying to solve, and whether the problem is a must-have thing or a good-to-have thing for the end customer. To break it down into simple words, if I have to build a car in India, air conditioner is a must-have feature, right? This summer there are filtering hot, whereas perforated seats or cool-down seats are a good-to-have feature, right? So that your shirt does not get stuck onto you with sweat. So if you're trying to build something which really solves an existing problem with something slightly innovative, either you are saving money or saving time for the end customer or helping him get more money into his pockets through your startup. In that sense, if the problem is real, if your solution is real, and in startup terminology, we call it the problem solution fit. So if the problem solution fit is right, at that point of time, the startup mortality at early stages is low. On the second step, we call it the product market fit. So once the product is ready, you know that the solution that you have built to solve a problem is right, is correct. It is actually solving somebody's difficult to solve problems. At that point of time, you have to make sure that there is a market for that particular product at a particular cost, which helps you generate revenue, right? So in case you're unable to generate revenue for it, in case the problem wasn't as big as you had earlier thought, that people were happy to, go ahead with it. If they had to pay extra, they would still bear the problem and not pay extra. In that case, you're in problem. So make sure that the problem solution fit and the product market fit, and you can read more about it online, are met. And my final point, do not try to go big on day one. We call it the lean startup thing. You build something, you take feedback, you go out in the market, you take feedback, and then you build it again, right? Do not build the entire thing on day one and then reach out to customers after 2 years of building and then realize that the customer does not want it. That is a bad situation to be in, right? Build a part of it, reach out to customers, take feedback, go back, improve upon it, and build it again. If you're able to do enough iterations before you run out of money, and the customer likes the end product, you are in there for the long haul, and you would ideally be successful.
Thank you. Well explained, Aditji. Now, recently you have mentioned about money. The next question is about that. So the first part of the question is, what is the process of ideal startup, and like organizing, funding, and others? What are the ways to get funds for your startup?
Professor Raghavan, do you want to give it a shot, or should
I?
Yeah.
So what is the process? I'm not sure there is a standard process involved. I think different people get ideas in different ways, and it kind of manifests in different ways. And of course, some of the fundamentals, like Aditya already pointed out, in terms of product market fit and so on, I think is a great way to start really looking at. And a good example I would like to give there would be to, for example, an Apple can capture 5% of the market and still be one of the largest revenue builders. Or you can be, a Microsoft and have a really large market, 95% of the market, but per unit price is really low, and you're still making money. So it depends upon what kind of a customer, what kind of a solution, and how you're going to find that fit. You can either be an Apple, or you can be, Microsoft, in terms of the operating system that you use. And one can afford to be closed, and the other has necessarily got to be open because of the very nature of its business model. So that's something that you have to think about. What is it that you want to offer to the market, and what price is that market willing to pay for it, and whether you're going to be able to sustain with that over a long period of time. So that would be one. And the second thing, and again, it's similar, Jeff Bezos' example is what I would like to give for the idea of the lean startup that Aditya was talking about earlier. Because if you know the history of Amazon, they actually just started out as booksellers and eventually tried all other verticals, like toys and all kinds of other things, and they failed in all the other verticals except in the books because of the very nature of the book business, and which kind of forced them into a marketplace model, which was the way they kind of pivoted to even be able to start making money. Still, the pure retail does not make as much money as an AWS does, and that's precisely because of the nature of that particular business, right? So it's important for us to figure out what are the steps that you want to take to be able to continue to be at least a little bit cash positive and not sink. Not many businesses are lucky enough to continue to have funding continuously. And what are the ways to receive funding? I think there are different ways of doing it. Obviously, the first step is your friends and family, I would guess, and whatever savings you may have of your own. The next would be to see if you have somebody who also loves your product and service as much as you do, and find an angel investor who would probably kind of take you through the first couple of years. And then, of course, if you survive that, and then you will obviously have other people showing interest in your product and service. Of course, like we said, out of the 98 unicorns, not everyone has actually become listed yet. So now that's another story about how we need to look at our entrepreneurship ecosystem. But ultimately, it all kind of boils down to the product or service that you want to offer to the market, and whether there are others who also believe in your product as much as you do.
Aditji, you would like to add some point in that?
Sure. I'll just pick up one part of your question, that is the funding part. Apart from the FFF, which Professor Raghavan mentioned, the friend, family, and fools, whoever you can convince initially to invest in you, there is also a huge amount of funding that is coming in from the government today. One of the biggest programs started by Startup India is the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme, SISFS as it is known as, in which you can get up to 20 lakhs as grant and up to 50 lakhs as debt or equity-based investments into your startup. This is one of the biggest programs that is currently going on for science and technology-based startups in which there is some sort of innovation as far as technology is concerned, or there are possibilities of patents, etc. The Department of Science and Technology, Government of India also has a lot of schemes. The name of scheme is NIDHI, NIDHI. So you have the NIDHI EIR in which you get 30,000 per month for 1 year. You have the NIDHI Prayas scheme in which you get 10 lakh rupees to build your hardware. It is a hardware-based, primarily for hardware-based startups. And the NIDHI Seed Support Scheme, NIDHI SSS, in which you can get up to 50 lakh rupees of investment through an incubator. But the ideal source of funds is again the government. Similarly, Ministry of Electronics and IT has this scheme known as TIDE, TIDE, TIDE 2.0. MSME has a scheme specially for students to build their products, and they give up to 2 lakh rupees. Almost every state Department of Science and Technology has funds to give to students to early stage startups. And again, the ticket size or check size is small, but it is enough to start, and it is enough to go lean. It is enough to build a prototype. By that point of time, you'll have to bring in friends and families or angel investor. But the beginning that you need to do, the government has got you covered with a lot of support schemes. And most of these are in form of grants or convertible notes, wherein you don't have to actually take a loan against your name. That you don't have to pay for any collaterals. Nothing of that sort needs to be done.
Thank you, Aditji, for sharing this very important and basic information that you need not to. Money is not a barrier ultimately.
Not today. You're in a best space to start a startup today.
So if your idea is good, unique, executable, if you are able to lead a journey of attempt a journey of a startup, then money is not at all a barrier. There are many agencies which can provide you funding for every aspect, for seed funding, for to scale up, or to even to develop a prototype. So one more question is there. While deciding a startup, should we go for a new idea or any already profitable, tried and tested existing idea in the market?
That's I don't know if there's a straightforward answer to that question. See, if you want to be the first mover in the market, you're going to bring in something that's never been done before. You also have to educate the market, and that's going to take a lot of your effort and money in educating the market, because it's a completely new to the world product. And if you can do that, and you can do that well, and nobody else can do it as quickly, if the gestation periods are longer, then there are chances that you're going to be able to survive in the market, and you'll probably be the leader for a long time to come. You can establish yourself. But if you do not have that kind of a wherewithal where you are able to handle the kind of market education that's required, I think it would be a good idea for you to start with something that the market is already familiar with, maybe a little different, but something that the market does not take a long time to understand. So you don't have to spend a lot of time educating them about it. It's faster to sell, so you at least have some money coming in before you can do something completely new. It's always then it always helps to kind of do something incremental. So again, it entirely depends upon the muscle that you have in terms of the amount of time, effort, and the money that you might want to spend on the product and educating the market.
Yes, Aditji, any experience on this particular question?
So at CIACO, we get around 3,000 ideas every year from startup founders. And most of the ideas, the startup founders state them to be unique or to be new. And 95% of those ideas are somewhat similar to some other idea that is currently going on, right? So if you think you're doing something that is totally new, that is very different from what exists in the market, I would request you to go and do your market survey properly. Chances are that would be existing in some or the other form, and you are ideally improving upon it or bringing in a slightly different business model to what exists. In that case, I think in the two categories that Professor Raghavan mentioned, that is the existing product and something which is already there, you will fall in the first bracket, which that is the product already exists And you don't have to educate the customer about what exactly is your innovation, but more about how you're improving upon the existing solution. So do check out the market. The market survey is an important thing which most startups or founders forget to do properly, and they think that whatever we have thought is the most unique thing that could happen. That usually is not the case, unfortunately. And I've been on the other side also. So I have approached startup process long back and have been rejected because my idea wasn't new enough. So I understand what most founders go through today when we tell them that this a form or fit of this idea already exists, right?
Well explained, and I think this is all for today. And attendees may download their e-certificates. The link is given in the chat box. And we are really grateful to all three panelists, Dr. Mohit Gambhir, Professor Srividya, and Aditya ji. Everyone has contributed to the topic in their own manner, and all special teachings, even many things were there. They were quite new for me, though I have been conducting various programs on innovation and entrepreneurial activities. But definitely today's session has given me at least 10 new points for learning. So special thanks to all three panelists, and I'm sure in the coming time we'll be having some more session because this topic is quite wide, and we may attempt some customized case studies just to help our entrepreneurs or young students. So this is all for today. In the next session, we'll be having it on national education policy. The man behind this policy, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, will be the guest for the particular session. And the session is proposed on Saturday, 16th of July. So with the note to see you again, and thank you once again to the panelists, and thank you our all audiences for being there, and people, those who are there on the Facebook, they may write to us regarding the feedback through the website of Aditya. This is all for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Puneet ji. Thanks to the co-panelists.
Thank you, Professor Raghavan. Thank you.